Yeah, so yeah, earlier we were being a little cagey because we wanted to save all the good stuff for when, the cameras are rolling and you've actually started drinking, you know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes.
But welcome to Dinner Party. It's so good to have you. It's so good to have you both here in the studio with me.
I have to say I'm so honored to be here, and also it's such a treat to be. This is not a normal thing to be in for me anyway. To be in a studio with the lights and the amazing people who are doing all the tech and wine, and it's a
Oh,
very very
stop.
wonderful experience. Yeah, so I'm really excited to be here.
And just so you guys know, the wine is French. So just
Whoa.
just wanted to throw that out there. I'm not an animal, so we've got some good
I
Pinot
wasn't
Noir.
going to check, but I'm glad that you offered that.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I just didn't want you to judge my my
Your
taste.
taste. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cuz Bill and I were just in France together, which is how this idea came up. Yeah, so let me backtrack a little bit. The idea of Dinner Party is, like I said, it's kind of like Seinfeld of podcasts. We talk about everything, we talk about nothing. It's shallow in a sort of deliciously deep way. And we just talk about, our stories, and it can go from cults to what was the other thing you were saying in our text the other day? It was like cults and Italian
Oh,
speeding
speeding tickets. Yeah.
tickets
I
and
got hundreds. I actually learned from your podcast that I didn't have to pay all of those, that
yeah,
they wouldn't have come after me, but I did
yeah,
pay
yeah,
all of
yeah,
them.
yeah,
Yeah.
non-enforceable.
Wow, I
Yep.
have so many questions.
Yeah,
Don't know what
yeah.
I
we're
had
talking
a
about.
real fear
That
of
was from
being
my first
in
episode.
Europe like 10 years
Oh.
later and just get arrested because I didn't
Yeah.
pay a ticket.
Right. Yeah, they don't have that type of technology. I was just saying, like, on the show that my parents got the speeding ticket, and as a part of, like, the classic Americans going to Italy and it being a disaster for, like, their family vacation. And then
Yes.
I was like, little did they know that you don't actually have to pay those because, like, Italy's not like the U.S. government. Like, they're not, like, going and finding you somewhere. They don't have anything to track that. They don't really care at the end of the day. They'll just send it to Americans to be like, yeah,
They
like you should
also,
probably pay
it's like
this.
the law is such there. I don't know for sure, but it's like they have like 2 years to mail you if you got a ticket.
Wow.
So you
Yeah.
can go to vacation.
What are
and
we all
come back,
doing here?
and then
We should be
Yeah.
leaving immediately.
You should go on vacation. They go on vacation like 3 times before you ever get the ticket.
Yeah,
And then
it's
they're
like
like, oh,
18
yeah,
months
send him
later.
that. And you're like, a year and a half later, you're like, oh, there's that. They like decided they finally got around to that. So that's what I mean. They're not, things cost a lot in terms of like taxes and tickets and fines and fees. But really, like in Italy, nobody pays them. That's like more just like an American the fear of the government type of thing
Yes.
that like we're like, okay, we'll just write the check. And they probably think they're American, they have money, like they'll just do it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
So yeah. But wanted to like briefly introduce Bill. Bill and I know each other through work, which also we'll get into why I think that's a funny story of how we met. But then also you are a comedian. And that's how I knew that I could really be myself around you.
Yes. We
So why don't you
connected
tell
over
us a
that.
little bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm like most people where I have a bunch of different kind of things that I do,
I don't know if
and
that's like most people. I feel
I
like most
think-
people do like one
Maybe
thing.
most like creative people.
certainly
That's what
most,
you
Yeah.
mean.
certainly most creative people. Yeah.
Most
I
people
mean,
like us.
Yeah.
we
Most people
understand.
like us.
Well, it's definitely this, right? I mean, I've done improv and sketch comedy for 15 years, and I've written a few, different books about creativity and social psychology and stuff. And I just do a bunch of things that none of them, are really commercially successful or have really. I didn't do those things for that reason. I genuinely love performing and I love connecting with creative people. It's why I really love these types of additive experiences where I'm like, yeah, why not? Let me just come on this thing because I know I really gravitate towards people who make things because I know how vulnerable it is truly as a practice to make things because you're kind of putting yourself behind it. So the fact that you all go to the trouble to do this type of thing, I really gravitate towards people like that. So yeah, I'm a writer and a performer, and then I work in design technology, which is how Daisy and I first connected, but really kind of leading. I don't know. I was trying to think about this way over like what I would call myself if I was academic. I'd be like maybe a behaviorist. Like I love studying people's behavior. That's not actually what I do. I really just like to know people and know how we can work better together and how to help. I don't know, drive. I don't want to say it like in a really gross marketing context. 'Cause I don't really
No,
care.
please do.
I like
Make it,
I've always had jobs where I'm like, how can I connect to people in whatever industry this is and then extract stories from them and use that to, I don't know, make it something viable for business. I like people, I guess is how I come at anything I'm doing.
Yeah, and you said you'd written some books on this?
Yeah, I wrote, I mean, there's self-published books. My last book is only sold in one bookstore, brick and mortar. It's the Brentwood Country Mart in Los Angeles,
Wait,
California.
I didn't know that. I want to buy one.
You can buy them on Amazon. I've written 3 books, but yeah,
I feel
don't
like
know.
everything's self-published now anyways.
A
And
lot
that's,
of
like,
it
the
is.
way
I mean,
to
when I started doing it, it wasn't as interesting. Like I just remember having so many people be like, "Oh, anybody can write a book." I'm like, "Then you do it, then."
Right.
You know,
Writing a book is rather difficult.
So yes,
1,000%. And
anyone
also, like,
can.
anyone can. So what? You
Yeah.
could. Like,
I looked at the path. It's an interesting, I guess, way to think about it because like the creator model. When I wrote my first book, it was 2012, I want to say. And Instagram started, I think, in 2012. So whole creator space was really
Yeah.
nascent then, or non-existent.
it was like there was kind of blogging a
Yeah.
little bit. But
Well, yeah, there
not-
was like LiveJournal and MySpace and Facebook, of course, and stuff. But it was
Yeah.
like kind of the idea that you had to go through traditional publishing means was still very present.
Mhm.
Whereas now, if you're an influencer with millions of followers, you could just go direct to your audience and self-publish or self-create and
Yeah.
self-distribute.
Yeah. 100%.
Is that what your first book was about?
No, it was about comedy and business. It was about
Ooh.
porting the lessons. Because when I started doing improv and sketch, I met a bunch of people who had either been comedians and then moved into different industries and brought those lessons with them, or had been in industry and decided to leave to become professional comedians because of that skill set. It was a terrible book. Don't read that book. Don't buy that book. Like, I'm not marketing that book. One of the guys I interviewed for it turned out he was a fraud. I didn't know any better. Okay, I was
What?
I was a kid.
Okay,
Like,
wait, tell
lessons-
me about that.
Well, there's not much of a story there. It's like he had this whole book of business and stuff, and then it was later came out that he was just like making all of it up. But
Wait,
his
wait,
lessons
wait.
were legitimate. I mean, I still like the
Wait,
lessons
his-
from the
What
book.
were the con
What-
man's lessons
yeah.
that you...
what was the
Got.
fraud? Was it like the fraud was in business? Or
I don't
the
think he was
fraud
ever convicted
like...
of fraud, so I can't name him because I don't want to be liable here or whatever slander
Well, you
don't-
speak. But I
I
don't
don't
think
have
it's
to say his name,
basically,
but like,
there was like a forum that I found later that was like, this guy's a fraud. Like, this is scam. He doesn't actually have any, but he did have a lot of like real customers that I did identify. But I think this is where I get shy about this stuff. Is like, I think I've always navigated away from considering the self-help. Like the stuff I write about, I really am curious about. And I love the concepts of creativity. The second book I wrote was about success pathing and how do you realize intrinsic success in an I guess world where it's like it's not structured to motivate intrinsic success. So I was like, I'm curious about that. But I've never gone down the path of like making this a self-help thing because there's so much grift and fraud and weirdness in that space that I just have never wanted to associate with it that way. But yeah, this guy, I think like there's a lot of people out there like that they make a lot of money and they have great business, but they're kind of like, it's kind of fraud. I don't know. Not to me. I don't know. I don't know. I don't.
but what was the nature of his fraud? Like he had his own business and it was like,
Yeah,
it was,
like
like,
I think he would
fraudulent?
talk about stuff he had done that came out that he hadn't done all of these things. But he had enough
okay.
legitimate customers and people willing to go on his behalf. And he had spoke at these big conferences.
I was going to say, is he like a sort of like a well-known person?
No, you wouldn't have heard of him. probably now. But this is the point. Don't read my first book. It's
Yeah.
not good.
So
you know what I mean?
we're gonna scratch the first book,
Scratch the first
but
book. The
the
second one's
second
better.
book-
I'm like fascinated
The
by this
third one's
fraud
bad.
guy. I'm like, I'm
I
gonna read your
know.
book now just to learn more about him.
I mean, there's so much of it. There's so much of it. So, here's what I'll say. I invest so much time in writing these books and writing stuff. And then I'll look on Instagram, whatever, and there'll be somebody who's just like, if you want to succeed, you got to try. And there'll be 18 million likes on this thing. And it'll be like profound, thousands
Yeah.
of comments. And I'll be like, what? Why?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's like mass production of anything. Like you
think
look at
so.
like what's viral a lot of the times, it's like yes, there's funny stuff that's viral and like people falling down and stuff like that, which like I'm not turning my nose at that. I totally like also laugh. But then there's also like a lot of like stuff that's viral because it like taps into your fear. You know what I mean? It's
I
like
think that's right.
12 reasons that your husband is like cheating on you and always has been. You're like, what? Like that's like the type of stuff that gets like a lot of traction.
Yeah.
And that's what they say is like blue skies don't sell. And, you know, if you want to succeed, try and stuff like that. you
Yeah.
know?
I
Words of wisdom.
I think that's right. I mean, in general, I always operate on the foundation that everyone's kind of, I could swear on the podcast. Yeah.
You can go hog
You
wild
may.
on this podcast.
Okay. I
In
operate
fact,
on the basic.
This is unhinged.
It's
Just so you know,
oh,
it's an
oh,
this
about to
is
get
unhinged podcast.
dinner party unhinged.
Yes,
It's
this
like a
is unhinged
subcategory.
edition.
Yeah, sorry.
We're glad you're here. You
Seinfeld
are.
of podcasts, but unhinged.
Okay, like Seinfeld on HBO. It's
Yeah.
Curb.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Essentially.
Yeah,
I was gonna say I operate
You're
on
like,
the
got
basic
it.
foundation that everyone is kind of fucked up. So if you start
I think that's
with
fair.
that,
I would say very.
yeah, some
I
are
would
very,
go,
some
I
are
would go to say very.
You're like
fucked
mild
up.
to severe.
mild to severe. And so if you start with that
Rheumatoid
foundation,
arthritis.
it's very interesting. You can really connect with people. And I think to bring it back to the original thing we were talking about, where about this podcast, I always just love exploring that part of relationships with people because everyone's got something they want to do or have done, who have really interesting stories and experiences when they've lived a life, in particular in a city like this in New York. But I think the place can be agnostic. And I don't know. I've always just had really a lot of fun exploring that with people.
Yeah.
Yeah, in work.
Totally.
Like that's how my books were. My books were like I would interview people that had done this with their life, like gone from, I interviewed one guy for that first book that was legitimate, who had been a stand-up, who this CEO hired him to be the first chief comedy officer of this agency. So they made that one was called Peppercom Communications, but they had every employee take a stand-up comedy class, and then they would perform for the audience of their peers for like charity as different cohorts. Sounds terrifying to a lot of people, but kind of amazing way to bring people together and break down that the levels between them and break down that feeling like I have to be perfect all the time. And so that those types of, I don't know, interconnectivity between the arts and business I always liked.
Yeah, we're here for that. So
I
then
love
with
that.
your own journey into comedy,
Mm.
like did the comedy come first and then the book? Or like did you study it and then you were like, I want to do this?
Yeah, I think I did comedy. I mean, it'd be a fair critique to say like I wrote a book about comedy before I had any credentials in comedy to do that. Like I did comedy for like 2 years, and then I was like, but it was about the business connectivity to it. I started doing stand up. I wasn't that good at it, but I was like, there's a lot of bad people in stand up. Like there's a lot of bad stand up. So I was like, I can at least be mediocre in this.
Yeah.
But then I did improv and sketch, and I loved that, and I was pretty good at it, and I liked it, and it felt really natural to me. But really, it was just like I knew I would do it forever. It's like that you tap that vein of some sort of creative thing, and you're like, I love this. I know I'll do this forever. And then because I've always been somebody who would, that's why I don't think I could do anything really well because I like too many different things. So I like to I do like business. I like writing. I like comedy. I like all these other things that I was like, how can I bring them sort of together? So I started doing, different like comedy trainings for creative professional or for business people. And then that's where the writing, I think, kind of came into it and helped expand that a bit. But yeah.
What's the heart of that workshop or talk or whatever you're doing? Like for someone who is leading a corporate life and let's say would not identify as a creative,
Yeah.
what would you want them to like get out of the work that you're doing?
Well, I think it's, here's the thing. I think my big soapbox right now is I think we're in a period of creative renaissance. So post-pandemic, people are rejecting traditional ways of work. Now, the environment especially in cities like this, is bucking that. Back to office mandates, all this kind of stuff. But people are kind of rejecting the traditional ways of work. There's new technology, be it AI, social, whatever, that's expanding distribution of access to create things.
Mm-hmm.
Things like this podcast, for instance, where you don't have to be the technical sound engineer to do it. You have access to the city. Obviously, you have more access to things, but even just tools like AI tools that help people to do that at scale now. And so I think people are inherently creative, and they're exploring, tapping into parts of their being. So the thing I would say to people is that you're more creative than you think you are, and acts of creativity are not just commercially artistic. Like cooking is an act of creativity, gardening is an act of creativity, and I think people need that. Like it's inherent to who we are. I could so go on a soapbox about creativity. I just love creativity stuff, but that's the thing for me. I think people should make space for it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I think I would assume we're all very much in agreement on that. I feel like
Yeah.
we're all like creative beings in that sense.
Yeah, we definitely taken it pretty seriously, I would say. And like that's kind of what I guess the space that you had created in Cannes was like very very tapped into that in terms of just like bringing creative people together and like a really like luxe like high-end environment and all that
Yeah.
is kind of like at the heart of that. So yeah, I love that. And I mean that's how you and I met. I mean when we met at dinner at that what was
What's
that
the
place?
story? Tell the story.
I mean, it's not
I mean,
that crazy of a story,
no,
but
I think it's funnier to me that like okay, because here's the funny part to me. So we met at a work dinner, right?
Yep.
I guess like that's how I would categorize that, but it
Yeah,
was
it
kind
was.
of like just like a partner's
free
dinner.
ranging. Yep.
And like I was basically there just like because I was the only person like living in New York, so I was just like invited. So Bill and I met, and I'm always like you're kind of yourself at these things, but then when you're meeting new people, especially when you're not like representing only yourself, you're like representing the company. So there's a bit of like your corporate mask, like you were describing in your, in your sort of like corporate consulting, stand-up comedy like role. There's a bit of that corporate mask that goes up, and I feel like whenever we met, I like never know how open I can be with people. And so Bill says like, oh yeah, like I, this is kind of like my role here now, but then I also like I do comedy on the side, and I do all these other things. And I was like, obviously I know a lot of people in comedy and like my family and everything like that. So I was just like, oh, he's like seen probably the most like unhinged shit in his like life, and like I don't have to like be as like I don't have to have my like corporate mask
Totally.
on. So and
Safe
what I
space.
remember you with like us talking about was sleepwalking, and I have
Oh
like
my
the
gosh,
most
yes.
I have like the most unhinged sleepwalking story. And
Do
so
you?
yes,
It
I
was
mean,
pretty unhinged. That's true.
Do you care to share it now with our live audience?
And so I was like, oh, but like he's a comedian, so obviously I could just like be like straight up with him about like the actual like most unhinged thing that's happened while I was sleepwalking. And then I definitely like the next day was like, like should I have told that, or
Might
was
have
that like
overshared a bit or
the
something?
wine? Yeah.
Well, we do. I mean, we were saying this before we started, but like every time, and I'll do it tonight. Every time I leave every conversation, I have anxiety about the conversation that I overshared, or that I should have done something differently, and I do it all the time, and every time. And so I am constantly amazed when people want to talk to me a second time, because I always believe that I messed up the conversation the first time.
Same.
And
Really?
yeah.
Both of you?
Yeah, I
you're
think
both
so.
strong conversationalists. Like you're both pleasant people. Like, do you have any data that says people are like, "Hey, I just want to pull you aside. I really hated the conversation we had yesterday."
Yeah, that's like the mentality where you're like most people suck and are like not good
No,
conversationalists.
I knew Daisy and I would be friends after that. After that dinner, yeah.
But that's also why you do need to like be more unhinged in life, and I think
Oh,
that's
the
like a
test.
general
Pressure test.
You
Yeah,
find your other
because-
island of misfit toys people. You know,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, you're like in that moderate to severe,
And
you
it-
know,
yeah.
whatever it is.
and
That
it
special
and it
sauce.
bonds you, and you're
bonds
like,
you.
if they don't like
always
it,
talk
then they're
about
boring.
Island of Misfit Toys people. Like those are my people for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you've done comedy.
And-
Like comedy, there's people like you're in basements with these unhinged crazy people, and I'm one of them too. And like at 2:00 in the morning, and everyone's got bits all the time. It's an exhausting, environment.
And people
for your
probably
oncoming-
say like horrible, fucked up things as like a joke, and then you're like, not like just like in any direction of how that could be. So you're like, that's why I was like, oh, like Bill, like he's a comedian. I can tell him whatever. And basically, the story was that I sleepwalk on occasion. And you've already heard this story, so like I won't
Feel free to chime in if she
be
misses anything.
redundant, or you can correct me.
the
if
audience hasn't heard it.
So, but basically, I sleepwalk when I'm overly exhausted, and if I have like ingested any alcohol. So if those two things are true, then it's possible that I'll sleepwalk. So I was saying how and like both of my siblings sleepwalk like regardless, and have that like just as I don't, no one really knows why, right? But like my sister gets up, my brother will like scream, like it's like one of those things where it's just like it's
a scary thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like normal to me, but like probably concerning to other people. Yeah. And so I'm like, yeah, but like, okay, so I'm telling this to Bill, but basically one time it was after Austin City Limits, a music festival, and I'm obviously exhausted because it's like the third day of a music festival, and obviously I've been drinking because it's the third day of a music festival. So prime for me, sleepwalking, like recipe for disaster.
It's inevitable at this point.
Yes. So I am at my then boyfriend's apartment, and we're like, I got home watching a movie. I fall asleep on the couch, and then I get up, and basically I'm like going to put myself to sleep, but little does he know, like I'm actually sleepwalking. And so I have like no memory of this whatsoever, but I got up and I walked over to the kitchen to go through the kitchen to like get to the bedroom. But in the meantime, you know how like, I mean, I guess guys don't do this, so like maybe not, but like if you're at a music festival or something with like a gross outdoor toilet, you'll like go, like girls will like go over, like, get in front of it, squat a little bit, and like hover. We call it like the hover. And so you hover so you don't touch it, but then you just like pee into the toilet like that. So I'm like, have been doing this for like the past like 3 days, like going to the porta potty and you hover and then whatever. So I guess I walked over to his trash can, started the process of the hover, like pants down, go like
ready to go,
like ready to go,
ready to release.
And he's like, Daisy, what are you doing? And then I'm like, oh my God. And apparently, because like we were talking about, I believe, how you get really sassy. I don't know if you've encountered a lot of sleepwalkers, but they get like really sassy.
Sleepwalking.
Yeah. So like if you're talking to someone while they're sleepwalking, like usually they'll be like rude back to you. So I'm like, oh my God, like whatever. And so there's like a box next to the garbage can, like you're like, just put your box next to the garbage. You're like, yeah, I'll deal with that later.
Yeah, it'll sit there for 3 days. Yeah, totally.
Exactly. So I go over to that box, and then I just like continue to like just act as if it's a porta potty, and I just like do my little hover squat over that, and he's like, no, that's not the bathroom.
The relationship ended very soon thereafter.
In that moment, actually.
Yeah.
And then I literally, and this was the kicker, he's like, then you look at me and you go, oh my God, you're being psycho. And then you walk over to the bathroom, and then you just like disappeared. And he was like, I can't wait for you to wake up tomorrow morning so that I can tell you this story.
Wow.
Well, to make,
you're being psycho.
I can totally validate what Daisy's saying, because I was saying, the reason we're talking about that too is because I also was sleepwalking when I was just out of college a while, and I would get up in the middle of the night and I would go and walk and get into bed with my roommate and go back to sleep. My roommate was like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And I would say, "It's fine. Leave it alone."
Yeah.
He'd be like,
Exactly.
"No, it isn't. What are you doing?
Drop
Go
it."
away.
Yeah.
Drop it." Yeah. And one
It's
time,
not weird.
one time,
Why are you
I'm
in
gonna-
my bed?
I'm gonna butcher what I exactly said, but one time I got on the bed, he kicked me out. He's like, "Get out of here," and I would get up and I would go to the doorway, and I was like, "Well, you made it awkward," and then left or something.
We
like
could have had
this.
something.
Yeah.
And you made it awkward.
And I went to therapy about this, and we never got to the bottom of it. I haven't done it since that I know of.
Wow.
My wife would tell me now, but I don't.
Yeah, you would know.
I would know. I don't do it anymore. I think it was a weird time in life. But yes, it's like a scary proposition that your mind can mess with you in that way.
Yeah.
you know?
No, it is. I mean, and that's the thing is like I was like telling you this when we had like just met at like through like a work dinner. So that's why I thought it was funny because I was like, well, obviously you've heard worse in your life and I know you'll be like, and that's why we became friends.
Empathetic, yeah.
Because I was
Yes.
like,
And this
I
is
was
why
like-
Shared vulnerability.
This is why
Yeah, I
it
was
doesn't
like-
make sense on like a Salesforce spreadsheet, though. You know, it's like, well, how do you have this connection? I'm like, I can't really tell you why this connection exists. It just trust that it's there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
That's how business
I
gets
mean,
done. Sleepwalking.
Yeah,
Sleepwalking.
telling people about like your most
Your darkest
Yeah,
secrets.
yeah, your most embarrassing, like
It's
just
the
like
new team,
horrible
the
stuff.
new team building thing. Everyone's gonna sleepwalk and then tell their stories. That's the way
That
they
would
can
be the
bond.
next grift. That would be the next self-help.
That's
grift.
it. That's it. We're gonna write that book
Hypnosis,
tonight.
We're gonna write that
Yeah.
book tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like
Wow.
just everybody just go around the table and tell your most embarrassing stories.
It would bond people.
and then it would bond
would bond
people.
Somebody would inevitably have one that's like really way too far.
It
That
would be
make it
if
weird.
people don't have the self-awareness to kind of read that room.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could
that
be
would be
potentially
hard.
disastrous, but also
We can
like
workshop it.
very entertaining.
Yeah.
For
Yes.
me, I think we skew towards too boring in like corporate life. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like
Ugh,
we could maybe skew
dreadful.
the other way.
dreadful.
Yeah, it's like a little too boring until it like blows up and people get in like a huge fight, you know? And that's when people like I've seen unhinged stuff happen in corporate environments because people like held back for too long and then they like just started screaming at each other in a conference room.
Yeah.
That to me feels very normal, but I feel like we could get a little more unhinged with the stories.
I think it's like it's also a way it brings
With
people
the
together
honesty.
to live those shared experiences too. I mean, I think inevitably everyone has those stories, and we're joking about like the unhinged stuff, but everyone has them. So it is like a way to disarm those relationships quickly when you have a shared
Absolutely.
experience like that, because no one doesn't have it. I wouldn't trust you if
Yeah.
you said you didn't have some crazy shit that you did
No,
before. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean?
I'm like, tell me the last time you peed your pants.
Yeah.
Like,
I am having
Okay,
a
fine,
thing
pooped your
for a
pants.
while. I don't know. I can't really tell you the last time. I couldn't remember, but I have, I'm sure.
Yeah. yeah.
okay, well, how about this? What is the most like fucked up anything has gotten in either stand up or improv? Like, what's your worst story where you were like, I felt like my whole body clench, either from you or from somebody else?
Oh boy. Well, I think, inevitably stand up like or like open mic stuff, you got a lot of bad, thank you very much. You have a lot of like misogyny, race, and like kind of crazy people. They'll watch like Dave Chappelle do a set. And they're like, okay, that's what I gotta do. And then
Right.
they'll go try to do something like edgy, but they're not comedians, and also it's not funny and it's awful.
Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of that kind of stuff where it's like really bad. I would go further than cringe. It's just like offensive, bad stuff for the sake of being offensive in
Yeah.
the stand-up world. I think in improv, you'll get more. I always like the improv kind of community because it is like make or break together in a way. Like you'll see people sort of steamroll each other on stage or try to take more energy than they're supposed to. And certainly I'm sure I've been guilty of that as well. But like because you're kind of all living or dying together there, it necessitates more of a
Totally.
communal approach to things.
Yeah.
You know?
I've always thought that too, in the sense that I like to play music, but I enjoy playing with other people. And there's something about that, like growing up playing music, that at least, I mean, yeah, people have solos and there's like the lead guitarist or the lead trumpet player, whatever it might be. But like
You're relying on each other.
Yeah, there's just a
Yeah.
sense of like, oh, I need everybody. Like
Yes.
I need the drummer and the bassist and the like. If at all, I'll do my part.
Yes.
Where I would imagine that in stand up, especially when it's material that you've written and that you're trying to land your joke, that like, I guess when you're out there doing your thing as a solo stand up artist, is there a sense of like community with the audience, or does it really feel like you're like, I'm on my own here?
Oh, definitely. And I would say like, because people are watching me like, you don't do stand up. Like I suck at stand up. You know, I mean, I do. I'm not a stand up. Like I hope that I can play this one day in front of my Netflix special and it'd be like, I actually am the king of stand up now. I
rock.
But I'm really not. I mean, I was fine. I think anybody can do it. I think everybody should try it. I tell everybody they should do like a comedy class. Again, because a lot of times it's mostly filled with people that are new to the city or they're trying to get better at public speaking or whatever. It's funny. I host a lot of events. I'll MC events or I'll host events at these industry things, and people are like, "Wow, you're really good at that." I'm like, I always think of it like I'm a failed comedian. I never made it as a comedian, which makes me a hell of a host and MC because that experience is kind of shared. Like, you know, it's more just be a comfort on stage, and it's an intimate experience. I had that doomed first book that I wrote. I interviewed a friend of mine who was a sales professional but had done a lot of stand-up comedy, and his whole thing was like he'll never speak from behind a podium. This is often why, you know, this was what I learned from that too, often why maybe subconsciously in a lot of cases, but a stand-up will come out and take the microphone off the stand and put it aside, move, is that you want to make sure there's no physical barrier between you and the audience, that it's an interesting or an intimate experience between them. And you can see when and I noticed this too when you're speaking, when you come on a stage and you're speaking to an audience, you can see them physically relax when they feel like they're in good hands. So if an audience feels like they can trust you, because people are social, they want you to, like, they care, they want you to be okay. There's nothing worse than watching someone stumble around on stage and be nervous and whatever, right?
Yeah.
So when they can feel like they're in good hands, they'll physically relax and then they can take in what you're trying to tell them. So that's that whole aspect of live performance is why
it's like they're nervous for you.
They're nervous for you. It's secondhand nervousness.
When I watch someone get up there, I'm like, oh boy. And like, cause you feel like empathetic towards them. It's like mirrored, you know what I mean?
Totally, yeah.
So then when you see they're confident, you're like, oh, thank God.
It's why improv is never really translated onto to television. Like Whose Line is how everybody thinks about improv because they did it right with short form, like short form game kind of things are what works well in that space. But long form improv hasn't always really well translated because it's so reliant on the audience. Like it's so reliant on the moment. And a lot of times it becomes so off the rails that like, if you're not in the space with it, this is my 2 cents on it. I just think like, if you're not in it, you're not building a show around it with the audience, then it doesn't really work that way.
And I also think to that point too, like the long form improv that I've seen, like oftentimes they'll get a suggestion from the audience. So even as someone who doesn't speak in an audience, like I still feel like collectively I'm a part of the story being told.
For sure.
And then if they do a really nice job of like having that like callback moment from the beginning with that one joke, that it feels like nobody else has access. It's just us 35 people watching these 8 people on stage, and it feels like we're like if I see a theater show, I know it's going to be the same show-ish every single night, you know? But it feels like, oh, this is just for us. And so I never thought about it in that way, but that makes so much sense to me.
But anything is like that. I mean, look at live podcasting. Like I can't wait until you all sell out a stadium for a live episode podcast of Dinner Party. That is a thing now. Like podcasts are going on tour, and that's also part of it. The guest is always like, you know, part of the city maybe that they're in, and the audience background to it is part of the recording experience. Like that's a whole new kind of like genre of live event now.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I kind of think about podcasting as like, you know, just like old school radio shows and like just the same. It's basically the same concept. It's always been around, and I guess like a lot of people probably went to see, I don't know, like the famous DJs in the 80s that were like really popular on like FM radio or whatever. I'm sure they did like some
they would certainly do live
events or like be on host their show on
Mhm.
the Good Morning America. I'm like struggling. I'm like
Whatever,
whatever.
Yeah,
whatever,
I
whatever
think
people were
totally.
I
watching,
think before
you know?
before podcasting, I think the path to stardom was Good Morning America. That was it. It was like you go on Good Morning America, or
That's how you've made
that's
it.
how you made it. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And they're still having podcasts. I mean, now they have podcasters on there and stuff like that
The
too,
the
and
the
TikTokers.
funny thing is, I think that everything is sort of a remix of itself, right? So the fastest growing medium being podcasting is funny because it's like effectively radio,
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
like you
totally.
said.
It is radio.
And now there's a live podcasting, which is just like radio. And then there's narrative podcasting, which is I think even faster growing. That's a subgenre where there's like written episodic podcasting that is happening. That harkens back to even pre-television.
Yeah, that's
when
a
you'd
radio
have
play.
The radio
Yeah.
play where the family would sit around the radio at night for a narrative story being told. You know, like I always teach. I teach. I'm not doing it right now, but I teach at college, like advertising class, writing class too, and on the side. And I always teach the students about the War of the Worlds radio broadcast, which I don't know if you're familiar with it from
Vaguely, but yeah.
I forget the year, but basically they had one of these narrative podcasts, but people were tuning in late to it, and the whole point was the story was about an alien invasion, and people tuned in and didn't get the context that it was part of this narrative play, and they thought that it was a real alien invasion happening in the United States, and it set off this huge panic among the population. That they had to like quell because there wasn't the 24-hour news cycle, there wasn't social, so like people were hearing this and then just freaking out. So the power of that medium, right? And now it's sort of coming full circle, and it's a remix. Everything's a remix, like, but it all comes back to the fact that people are the same, inherently, right?
Yeah.
We all respond to the same types of ideas.
Yeah. It's like basically it's that, and I think that I have a friend who is like. She's like a content creator for content creators. Really, really interesting. Definitely gonna have her on at some point. But she talks a lot about the gatekeepers, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that now, like, a lot of these, you know, podcasts and you know, YouTube and these different like new mediums of like the same thing are that just like without that gatekeeper. So it's like democratized and then also like probably you know 50% shittier quality, like, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah, you're gonna have
it's democratized and then it's also like, you know, pretty diluted, but then you know what I mean? So I feel like it's the same, but it's just like removing that piece of it, which like you can self-publish a book now and sell it on Amazon, and you know, you don't have to go through like Penguin or Harper's or like one of the like 4 major publishing houses in New York, which like you used to have to.
Yeah.
You know, my mom writes short stories and you know, she wrote a book and or like my mom's a writer basically. And you know, it took me a long time of like telling her, I was like, Mom, like there are other ways of putting your writing out there. If you're a writer, like the point is just to write, you know? So now people have blogs and they have online journals and they have all these things, but writers are just like, it was a very old school industry where it's like, you know, kind of like these literary journals, and there's like these like really sort of like snooty publishing houses. And I was like, you can just like send your stories to these different online journals and they'll just like vet it and publish it if they like it. And I think that took a long time for her to wrap her head around. And then now she's like, oh yeah, I've been published in like all these different like journals. And I'm like, yeah, because there's like one like print one that still exists that people still read, which is the New Yorker. You know what I mean? I'm like, if you write short stories like and you want them like in the world, like you probably have to go online. But I feel like that's just an industry that was like, you know, it was slower for that.
Well, I think you bring up a good point too. Like in the era where everything is accessible and you can create, there's obviously an abundance of content. And so people, the upshot to the idea that there was this gatekeeping, you know, group, obviously a lot of detrimental impact to that too. But the upshot to it is that people, and I would ask, like, talk to advertising students, like, philosophically, would you say advertising is good or bad from a moral perspective for society? Would you say it's good or bad?
Like me? Are
Yeah.
you asking me that?
I'm asking you both that as just a foundation. Like, what would you say?
I would say it's neutral.
Okay, neutral.
My gut does lean towards bad.
Okay.
Because I don't know how true this is, and forgive me if I'm offending anybody, but I think like
I
advertising.
don't think there's a right answer, by the way.
There's like, to me, there's like marketing, which to me, I can't help but feels like manipulation to some degree. Or maybe I'm thinking of like a McDonald's or a Coca-Cola that would fund a study to be like, drinking sugar makes you healthier, right. Scientists? You know, or like I think about that. Well, if we hook that reptilian part of your brain to respond to the color red, then you'll be more blah, blah, blah. So like that is the context that I bring in, where I just think about manipulating people's thoughts to then behaviors and actions so that they can make money.
Yep.
But that being said, if there's good in the world, like, you know, if there's a charity that's trying to spread its word, and there's a way that you can go, oh my God, this was such a moving
I wouldn't have
ad
known.
that like I wouldn't have known. I'm like, I really want to invest more time into this cause or something. Then then it's good.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I feel like I don't know if it's a conditioning or just kind of my own bias that I assume it's actually more of a negative.
I think it's a very
profits at the end of
it's a very common answer. I think it's a very valid answer as well. I'm curious, Daisy, why you say neutral.
Well, I think it's just a tool, right? Like fundamentally, it's just sort of spreading
It itself doesn't have the
information
value.
or an idea or whatever. Yeah, exactly. So it's like you said, I mean, I think there's good businesses and then there's, you know, big food and big cigarette and stuff like that. But like, I think, you know, regardless of what they are, it's basically just like, it's like money. You can use money for good and you can use money for bad. It's a tool. So it's just like neutral in and of itself. But then how you use it, it might be more used for like negative reasons, like in our current society or something like that. But you know.
I think this is, I mean, that is exactly right. And I think you're both right. And there's no right or wrong on it. The arguments that would be given for, and some arguments that could be given for it being a positive society, is that it's an indication of quality. So if a company is willing to invest resources in promoting a brand or a product or service, they must believe that it has net value to the user base. Because if they thought that it was, you know, fraudulent or it wasn't going to work or whatever, they wouldn't spend that money. That's one argument for it. The idea of being in a democratized society where access to everything like podcasts and content and writing, we need some way to filter that. We need something that helps us to understand what is worth consuming, because there's no way to. So like in the old days, you'd have the gatekeepers of this publisher, this newspaper, this magazine would tell us what was valuable.
Curators.
So they were the curators.
So much information overwhelm.
Yes. And that curation still exists there, but now it's also filtered down to like creators and influencers and stuff.
Yeah.
But I have a tough time with that. So I'm like,
I have a tough time with that too. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, I'm 37 years old, as you might imagine.
You don't look a day over 21.
Thank you, Daisy, and I appreciate you. And you're wrong, but I appreciate you.
I didn't card you before the wine, so.
So it's funny, like I am constantly targeted by hymns.
Oh, same.
Right? So
where are you going with
you
this?
don't have any hair.
You're losing your hair.
You're losing your hair. You don't have any testosterone.
Yeah.
You have erectile dysfunction.
With enough women,
you're not sleeping.
I was like, Viagra.
You are broken as a man.
You're broken as a man, and we can help you.
And that's we have it.
Constantly, I'm targeted by this. And so it's funny actually because my in-laws.
Are you clicking on the ads though?
No, I don't click on the ads.
I've only tried 3 samples. Okay.
You know what, Daisy? It would not be a problem if I did. Okay, but I do not.
I'm not judging.
To keep
You're just like, I'm constantly targeted only because of my age.
To keep the
I'm like,
Seinfeld.
But it is a real.
To keep the Seinfeld reference going, not that there's anything wrong with that, but my in-laws, they use all of my streaming services. And I had to explain to them why they're constantly targeted by hymns because it's my profile.
They're like, we get so many Viagra commercials every day.
Like, I'm depressed. I don't have any hair, and I have ED. That's what hymns wants you to believe about me. But what's funny about it is that now you get all these creators, and it's funny. Try it. Say anything into your phone, and you will immediately be bombarded. Like the whole wellness space is like this too. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, I need this supplement. I need this. Did you know you're going to die if you don't do this? The water's killing us. The food is killing us. The air is killing us. But only these influencers.
Partially true.
They are, but like only these influencers supplements can fix it.
Yeah.
And help support us. And there's no regulation of that.
Yeah.
And so that's tricky for me. You know, like I use the Hims example obviously as a joke a bit, but like you'll get, if you know, depending on your demographic, you could easily be bombarded by a bunch of stuff that isn't really relevant to you, but that will convince you that you need to pay attention to this.
Yeah.
And that's really the downside, I think, of this like always on
world that we're living in. I mean, yeah, and it's just like so much more media too that you just consume regularly. Like I'm like, it's not like Mad Men days when it was like there's a TV commercial and you have like one TV in your house.
You're on constantly,
and like, you know, there's like maybe a billboard or something outside your office.
And we don't practice boredom. And I say this as someone who is absolutely addicted to my phone. Like I have been really working hard to turn off the part of my brain that just immediately goes. If I'm sitting by myself, I just go, and then suddenly I'm like, it's 9 at night. No one's emailing me. Like, why would I need to check that right now? You know, like how quick it's just.
You need like a dopamine hit. Really
I mean,
quick.
It's like it's spooky to me.
If I watch a video back from this interview, because my phone's over there, I'll probably go for my phone like 6 times. You know, just like by you know, phantom phone.
Yeah, no, totally.
I'm really curious to that idea you were saying though about it offering like value or a way to like assess value.
Yeah.
I guess in my eyes, I would assume that it's like whoever could pay for that ad. Like, help me understand how the gatekeepers.
because when, and again, this is just like more philosophical than it is anything, but like a company that's willing to invest significant money in advertising has to believe that their product does what it says it's going to do. If it doesn't, they're going to be like, for example, if you were, you know, Pepsi and you're going to sponsor the Super Bowl and pay $10 million to do that, but your Pepsi Cola actually poisons people, right? Or it tastes like crap or whatever, you wouldn't do that because you're going to spend all that money. They're going to try it and hate it and never come back to you again. So the idea being, again, take it on its merit or not, the idea being that advertising puts a brand or a service or an offering, a product in our consciousness that we can say, okay, there's some level of trust that I can put into this because the company believes in it enough to put money behind it.
Yeah, I think at a theoretical level, yes. Like obviously whether that's true or not is up for debate of like if it's, you know, Cutco knives, which we'll come back to or whatever. It's like that's just like you know, maybe they are just running a scam and they did convince people to give them money for marketing or whatever. But I do think I know what you mean because, you know, we met, well, the last time I saw you was in Cannes. And I think that that's a prime example of like companies where if you're there, you're considered legitimate on some level because like the minimum probably investment required to like have a presence there is probably like $500,000 to a couple $1 million. And so they like people just assume like, okay, your company is legit if you're like sponsoring this like really, really high end, you know, sort of like marketing advertising conference, basically. I'll give you
a corollary. This is a totally different track, but one of the things, a fun fact about me that I love to do is
knives.
I did work at Cutco Knives. We'll come back to that, but briefly, I love to crash awards shows.
Awards shows?
Yeah, so I've crashed the Oscars twice. I've crashed the Golden Globes. I've crashed the Grammys several times.
What was the craziest thing that happened at any of those?
And also, how did you crash it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's very meticulous.
Do you have like a plan? You're like, here's my.
I'll tell you what I do.
You're gonna be cagey about this because you don't want other people to know your.
No,
secrets.
I'll do it because I'm done. I'm retired now. I'm out of the game.
You are.
I am
That's
because
his next book.
I don't live in LA.
Can I convince you to like
how to come
out of retirement
I'll tell you my plan, what I do. But the reason I even brought that up is because when I get into these award shows, I could go talk to any celebrity because there's no gatekeeping. Once you're in there, they've assumed that you are supposed to be there.
Yeah.
So there is a trust. There's a certain level of trust because you're in that room in the same way with Cannes. But Yeah, I don't know. I have like a bad obsession with celebrity. I love celebrity. I don't know. I do.
Tell us everything. What do you mean when you say that?
Okay.
I don't know.
So how did you get it? How did the first time happen?
There's so many
Let's talk
things
about
to
that. Like, how did you think
unpack
about
here.
this? And then how did you like get from like, haha, I should crash the Oscars to like doing it?
I was driving around LA with my friend who was visiting, who's a director.
Okay.
And he not in the Oscars or anything, he just happens to be a director. And we were driving.
You're like, he was a director for a Hims commercial, completely unrelated.
No, although my other friend, shout out my friend Cab Washington, a great comedian here in New York, is one of the Hims spokespeople. He's like the guy who interviews guys on the Hims digital thing now.
Okay.
So now, not only am I getting targeted,
you have someone on the inside.
Not only that,
Okay,
Adam,
so that's why we're doing like an ad for Hims right now.
well, this
like,
is the thing. Not only am I getting constantly, now it's my friend telling me on these ads that I need to buy the Hims.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hims, just send me a pack. I'll try it out. I don't care.
Really?
Whatever. You know what I mean? Adam, don't judge me. Okay, so anyway.
No, there's no. I used Rogaine for a while to try to because
Did it work?
I couldn't tell.
And
I
and the
used it
Rogaine
for,
you have to use every day forever,
and it's like there's like
right?
and it feels
it's
like
expensive.
shit. It's expensive, and like every night I was like, it just feels like somebody, I don't know, maybe like hovered over my head. Like it just feels like this weird fucking gross shit on my head.
I don't like
feel
it.
like
I don't like it.
and
And
I'm
for
still
a
like
man, that's weird, right?
to
I feel like
fucking-
it's like, yeah, in my head, I'm like, okay, like, so you basically put like product on, and then I'm like, wait, but that's like when Jerry Seinfeld said women are just swimming in goo. I'm like, oh yeah, but I'm like slathering myself with stuff all the time. That's probably really, really unsettling if you're a man. You're like,
guess
why is there like
It
something
would feel
on my
natural
skin?
for sure.
me,
Yeah,
I'm not saying
for
this is anyone
you.
else's experience. For me, and not that anyone's ever taken a shit upon my head, but it just felt like there was always a little bit of shit on my
But
head.
if someone
If someone
had
did.
taken a shit
If
upon
someone,
my head,
if someone had taken a shit on my head, it would have felt like Rogaine.
then
Is all I'm
Rogaine
trying
would
to
be-
say.
Okay.
Okay.
But I didn't find it to be
Yeah.
effective, and I actually found the practice of it was I this is my theory, and I'm not saying that this is true by any means.
Yeah.
But I think
we work
by-
for Hims now, not.
I was gonna
So
say,
it's fine.
I was gonna say,
By doing
Sponsored by
Rogaine-
Hims.
this is like maybe also sponsored by
By the way,
Hims.
the biggest advertiser in the world, Hims and hers. Like they
Is
spend.
it?
No, I mean, but they spend so much money on podcasts. You should
I mean,
definitely.
it does feel like
be
they're
sponsored
everywhere,
by them now.
unfortunately.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say they might as well sponsor it because we've given them so much airtime, but it's only pills, right? It's like hair pills, dick pills,
Daisy,
like whatever.
I have no idea.
I have no idea.
I don't know.
I have no idea what they offer.
You get
You keep,
advertised like
you keep trying to get me to admit that I am a customer actively, but I am not. But I am willing to try it. I'm telling you, but I'm not currently actively a customer.
but your friend works there, you don't even know.
No, I'll ask him. I have to ask him. I don't know if he knows. He's bald, so I don't know.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what he's.
mean, there are
about.
other
so
products,
clearly
I
it's
believe.
not working.
No,
He's
no,
very
no.
cool though.
I think actually by
Come to
using
think of it.
By using it, I think I was hyper aware that I was balding every day, and I think
Yeah,
it
it's
actually
like a
contributed to my
reminder.
stress and actually made me go more
Adam,
bald.
you've convinced me I'm not doing it.
I would just so now I don't use any product.
Colleen, my wife, if you're listening, that's it. I'm not using Rogaine. It's off the
Throw it out.
table. Okay.
You guys got to go to Turkey on holiday. And
No.
then you come back with just a full head
I'm
of
just
hair.
That
honoring,
sounds awful,
I'm honoring
Daisy.
aging. I'm gonna
Yes.
get wrinkles. I'm gonna put on weight. I'm gonna go bald. It's okay.
I'm
It's
with
okay.
you. Except I'm not going to put on weight. I'm gonna do.
I'm gonna be
steroids and get jacked.
so
yeah, we get jacked.
absolute six pack.
Yes.
But besides that,
But
Yeah, because
I'm
your
with
dad is
you.
old and has like an 8-pack, right?
yeah, he's in
Yeah.
extraordinary shape. He also has
What?
a very unhealthy relationship to working out. But yes,
But
absolutely.
that bodes well for you. then,
Yeah.
It
maybe.
does. Genetically, I'm very fortunate that there's
Yeah.
if I really
Put
there's a
yourself
personal
to it.
trainer listening, I am looking for one. So
Yeah. And
Okay.
if you like
Anywho.
get a little more unhinged, then like it's just straight to the gym
yes,
for you.
exactly.
That's gonna
exactly.
be your outlet.
Um,
So
why are we talking about?
So I was driving around LA
Okay,
with my
so-
friend.
Oh my god,
Oscars.
the Oscars!
And I and
I'm like,
and we
knew there
it was,
was a
it
point
was
there.
the
I
Oscars.
forgot there was life before
Yep.
him. Okay.
And I like to. We all do. And we all and I was like, we should crash the Oscars. The Oscars night. We're in LA, and so we went and we jettisoned a few people throughout the way because they didn't have the stomach for it, and so we.
What do
we-
you mean?
You, wait, you have to slow down
went.
all this. You just
You just said
decided
you
were
went.
like,
Yeah, we
I'm
went
going-
back to our house. We put on tuxedos, and then we went back to. We started driving around. We went and we parked and we just walked into the Oscars. And I will say the hardest show I've ever got into is the Golden Globes because they shut off several streets. Now, this is an important caveat if I'm going to tell this story publicly, which I don't
Okay.
do ever. Every year, my wife, somebody will send me a story of somebody getting arrested for doing this and saying, don't stop doing this. You're getting arrested. But here's the thing.
Oh, I thought you
They
said
get
don't stop
arrested.
doing this.
No, say
They're
they say,
like,
stop
don't
doing
let
it.
this hold you
Oh,
back.
I also heard that.
Here's the thing.
That's what I would say.
These
I'd be like,
people
don't let this
keep
hold you
the
back.
belief.
Keep
Well,
going.
these people that get arrested, they're stealing credentials or they're lying about who they are.
So that's
They're using a
fraud.
different name. They're fraud. I never do that.
You're never committing fraud.
So light fraud. So I walk. My
Not illegal fraud.
My system is
Legal
this:
fraud.
I'll find out who's sponsoring the event, the Vanity Fair after party, for instance, at the Oscars, and I'll walk up the red carpet. I don't go to jump a fence or anything like that. I'll just walk right up the red carpet in my tuxedo, go right to the front desk, and I say, "Hi, I'm on the list for Vanity Fair." And they say, "What's your name?" And I tell them, "My name is Bill Connolly." And they inevitably say, "You're not on the list." I say, "Huh, I should be on the list." And then half the time they just let me in.
And then what about the other half?
I get escorted out the other half of the time.
Do they assume you're lying,
Okay.
or do
No,
you ever
because
go like,
if you
I actually not on
say
the list?
if you say you're supposed to do this, you're working the door. I've worked the door plenty of places. If somebody comes and says I'm supposed to be here, they believe you.
Yeah.
And
I would
Commit.
believe them. And what's my stake in it?
well, here's the thing: if I
Like, my
happen to
skin
be the
is not-
son of some magnate or
Right.
something,
Yeah.
and I'm
Exactly.
going to cause
Odds
trouble
are
for
they
you,
should be respectful to you. If
Yeah.
it's that kind of event, that there could be anyone of any
Yeah.
Yes.
particular status, that their job could be on
Yes.
the line
Right.
if they
Right.
choose wrong.
That's
Cost
right.
benefit analysis.
Wow.
It costs them nothing to let you in, but
Now-
it could cost them everything to send you
to
home.
send me home. Now, in
Yeah.
retrospect, I understand that if I had went in and caused a scene or whatever, and they let me in, that they could have been in trouble for that too. So I could see the pickle that I might have put some of these people in, but I never caused any trouble. I just go in and look around and I
Yeah.
leave. But I don't know. That's part of I guess that's part of the whole behaviorist thing, learning about people. It's like, how do you navigate certain events like this? The funny
Yeah.
story with that is I went to the Golden Globes twice, and I was standing next to Richard Kind both times, who's
Both times.
big comedic actor.
Yeah, totally.
And he doesn't know who I am or anything. But the second time I was like, hey, we met at the Golden Globes last year, which we did, but I wasn't supposed to be at either one of them. So we were chatting about that. But it is a funny, I guess, sociological experiment.
Did he remember you?
No, of course not. And I wouldn't have expected him to. But I did that, the Grammys, the Golden Globes, the Oscars. I almost got into the Super Bowl one time. But I am retired now, which is why I can share that story. You don't have to look out for me anymore at these events, sadly.
Okay. So basically, you just walk right in. That's pretty much it. Did anything crazy ever happen at any of these, or did you just go in
No,
and have
I
a
think
normal night?
the coolest thing was just I talked to interesting celebrities, I talked to Rachel McAdams was the nicest one. She was very, very nice.
And do you start these conversations, or did
Yeah.
Rachel McAdams see
no,
you and
I
go,
just
I need to
start
speak
the
with you?
conversation.
Yeah.
And all I do is I say, hey, I just want to say I'm a big fan. Congrats on your nomination or whatever. And then I leave. But she actually was like, wait, who are you? What's your name? How are you doing? Whatever. And I think she was with some of her family there, and she introduced me to them, and she was very sweet. And then that was
Wow.
it. Yeah.
Wow.
But that's it. And actually, this is what's disappointing about Adam. Then I go home, and I get home at 4:00 in the morning. I just leave. I don't even stay in. It's like the art. It's like the thrill of the chase is what I like.
Totally.
So when I get in, I kind of just leave, and then I go home, and it's 4 a.m. and I say to my wife, hey, I got in. I talked to Rachel McAdams, and she's like, okay, that's nice. Go to bed. And then that's it.
Good night, honey.
Yeah. But I would literally just sit there and watch the show and put my tux on and then leave and try to go to the after parties and stuff.
Did you ever
Wow.
get into any cool after parties?
Yeah, the Golden Globes, the Governor's Ball, the Vanity Fair after party at the Oscars, a bunch of Grammys after parties as well.
What was the coolest one?
Actually, this is the best Grammys
You're
one.
acting like all of this is just normal. You're like,
This
yeah,
is
I
the
don't know.
best
I'm
Grammy
like,
story. Okay,
Please, take
the
it
best
away.
Grammy story is it's this after party, and I get in and I say, hey, I'm on the list. They say, no, you're not. And I say, yeah, this guy put me on the list. And they're like, who is it? And I looked up. I was like, oh, let me look at this email. And I just Googled some random person at this company. I was like, this person. And they're like, okay, let me go talk to him. I'm like, oh, shit, this guy's here. He's definitely going to out me. So then I'm like, all right, we're just standing there. I was with my other friend, me and this other friend.
You just
And-
looked someone up at the sponsor of this event.
Yeah. And they're like, okay, let me ask him. So this guy comes out. He looks at me and my friend, and I'm like, we're about to get kicked out, obviously. Which is fine. Which is fine. You kind of know the risk going in. He looks at me and my friend. My friend's named Bryant, like Kobe Bryant. Bryant is his first name. He looks at me and goes, Mike, how the hell are you? Gives him a big hug, escorts us in. We were like, okay. And that was it. And then he left and we were in the party. I don't know what transpired there, but that was the craziest thing that happened.
And we are to believe that he believed that Bryant was Mike.
I don't know what
and
he
not
believed.
that he was.
I don't know if he came and then was self-conscious that he didn't remember us.
Yeah, that's
and he
what
just
I'm
pulled
gonna
out
say.
a name and was just
He's
like,
yeah.
it's Sam.
Oh
How
my God.
are you, dude?
Yeah. Oh my God.
So I don't know if
Maybe he was,
that's what happened.
Just drunk enough to be like, oh
Yeah,
shit,
to
who
be
did
like-
I invite?
Yeah.
Oh no.
But that is the social anxiety that you can play on at those sorts of things. Because I get that anxiety all the time when I see people. Even if someone like follows me on like social media or something, I'm like, did I meet this person at like a party and I was like several drinks deep and then now I don't have any recollection of who they are, and how embarrassing for me that I don't know who they are, because that makes me seem like I'm just like a rude, selfish person. So then I'm like, oh yeah, like of course, like I
We must
like
know
never.
each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we must know each other. So if someone did that to me and they're like, oh yeah, Daisy told me, I would just assume it was someone that like I knew, but then like I didn't remember what they looked like or we had
This
met
is why. This is
before.
honestly why con artists work, because you hear these.
For real.
You hear these stories about people. How did you fall victim to this
Yes,
con? But it's because
no.
people are inherently trusting. They believe you when you say who you are or
Yeah.
who you're supposed to be or
Yeah.
where you're
And
supposed to be or whatever.
It's
You know
almost
what I mean?
like you are more self-critical than you are of like other people in
Yeah.
a way. Like I'm more self-conscious that I would hurt someone's feelings of being like,
Totally.
I don't know them. I'm sorry. Please don't let them in, even though they said they know me and like whatever.
Yeah.
But like, especially if it's kind of a rando like that. Like obviously, if it's like you're like, oh yeah, I know like, Will I am or whatever, then he might be like, I like. Obviously, they just said they know me. I don't
I'm
know
a
them.
celebrity.
I'm a celebrity.
Yeah.
But if it's like this random guy who works at,
Like-
you know, Sony or
Yeah,
whatever, you're
whatever, yeah.
like, he's like, oh yeah, sure, I know those guys. They're great. I totally invited them, and then they're just like, okay, you
That is
know.
pretty incredible.
I knew I had to get out of LA. I had to move out of LA because I was at this restaurant and the waitress told us that a bunch of celebrities came there, and it was a bunch of celebrities there all the time, and we were like watching, and I was sitting there with a drink with like a couple friends, my wife, and every time someone got the elevator, I would look and see if it was a celebrity like this, and then one point I had the drink. And I'm like looking at the elevator, and this guy in a fedora came off, and I was like, "All right, maybe he's nobody, maybe he's a celebrity with a fedora." You never
You're
can
like
tell.
fiending.
I was fiending, and I went and put my drink down, and I just put it down, but there was no table there, and I just dropped it, and it shattered everywhere. And I was like, "Okay, we need to move out of this city now immediately."
And does this go back to the admiration of celebrities? I forget what word you had used, but you said that you were like really interested in just celebrityism.
Yeah,
as a thing.
appreciation of
You're-
celebrities. I don't know what word I used,
you're
but we'll call it
obsessed.
that. Obsession is probably what I said, isn't it?
Can I
Yeah.
ask what about that? What about celebrities or
I
like
don't
celebrity
know.
culture or?
I don't know, Adam. I don't know. I think maybe it's celebrity culture. I guess it's like how bizarre their lives must be that I'm fascinated by.
That's a fair thing to think about,
Like, I
especially
don't-
someone who like studies behavior. Like to think that one
Yeah.
person is treated so differently and has so many resources.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, I didn't mean to answer your question. Please.
No, that was it. We were discovering it together. I
Yeah.
think that's it. Like,
Doing a little like deep dive into your psyche and your obsessions.
yeah. Like, maybe this is a therapy. This is more therapeutic than I thought
I
it
was
was going
gonna
to
say, when do we get into your Cutco knives here?
be. Okay, well, yeah, we have
I
only
think-
limited time, so we have to get into that.
I think before we wrap this, we need to hear about your time in the Cutco knives
Well, I'll preface this by saying
in the
that
MLM in
young,
the cult.
as I was
this is the
young.
theme of the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay.
I'm like,
cults.
what's your experience with cults? Go.
I listened. I said to Adam and Daisy before I came on that I listened to the catalog of the podcast on my drive down here from Boston. I really loved it, and the episode about Amway. My goodness!
Shout out to Paul.
Yeah, Paul.
I love you, Paul.
Paul shook me to my core, honestly, with that experience. Amway. It was incredible, incredible narrative. I'll say this. I'll say a couple things. I love the idea with cults for probably the same reason as I love celebrity. That the fact, and here's the thing that your audience should know: you're all susceptible. All of us could fall victim to a cult at any moment.
Absolutely.
I want to start.
believe
I
this
want to start
strongly.
one.
Okay, well, we can do that
Okay.
because
We have someone who studies behavior.
Bill was just like, I'm in.
Well, that's his next book. How to start a cult.
I wrote
a script with my writing partner. We wrote a script called This Is a Cult, which is about a group of 30-something professionals that quit their jobs to start a cult together because they think it'll be easier than working.
That's pretty amazing.
Is that us right now?
I think we're living this.
And then they inevitably get mixed in with some actual cult people and hijinks ensue, as you may imagine. Like they get in too deep kind of thing. But the idea that you could go into more communal living and all that kind of thing, the idea that there's some charismatic leader. This is what I love about cults in general too. And you watch all these documentaries like this charismatic leader, they follow him. And then you look at the guy and he's like what the fuck is this guy? This guy?
He's actually like
Keith Raniere of Nexium?
Yeah.
That guy?
A good example.
This guy, he was so captivating. Like, what?
He was like, just like had charisma and good looks. He's like a Greek god.
But there's something about it for some people,
like,
you know?
Ugly
it
weird.
scratches that itch, I guess.
Oh my
You're
gosh.
like, this is the ugliest,
this is my guy.
weirdest
I'll ride for this guy.
I ride or die for this guy.
You're like, actually, everyone was just like that empty on the inside that they
That's
saw
it.
that guy and they were like,
They,
he has all the answers.
and look, they look for people that are trying to fill a void in their life. When anyone's trying to fill a void in their life, it can become a vacuum that can get filled with something that is actually additive to their existence or something that is very nefarious. And that is what these cults prey on.
Well,
which brings us to Cutco knives. So
Perfect transition.
when I was younger, I used to want to work. I used to want to get rich quick. And I had all these things.
I've never gone out of that.
Yeah. So
the void of the get rich quick thing and like the belief in it, that's kind of what that's what Paul had. You know, it's like they sell you on this dream.
Sure.
And
God. Especially like a college kid who's an artist who's just like, oh my God, I could commit my life to my art if I just do this thing on the side or whatever and make it the joy.
The idea that they sell it to is like you're an entrepreneur. I had 3 such jobs. I worked for a company that I worked for a company that did kitchen refacing at Home Depot. So my job was to go to, it wasn't Home Depot. It's a company that you would go to Home Depot and walk around, and I would like walk up to people who were in the kitchen section and try to convince them to get an estimate to reface their kitchen cabinets. Very weird. And I did it.
So it was unaffiliated with Home Depot.
Unaffiliated with Home Depot.
But that's
potentially
where the
illegal.
ideal market client was.
Yeah,
was
potentially
in
illegal.
Home Depot.
You were just like loitering in the Home Depot as like a marketing.
Like standing by the refrigerators, like
just opening up the same fridge every day.
Like, you know that like trope of like, you know, this guy's like in a dungeon and there's like some old guy way in the shadows that's like, hey man, I remember when I first got in here. That's like what I was doing, but in a Home Depot. And I was like, those kitchens look pretty nice, don't they? Damn, it'd be really expensive if you had to buy them brand new, but if you could reface your existing structure. So I did that. And I wasn't very good at that. I lost that. And then I went to another one called College Pro Painters, which is you would own your own business, employing a bunch of other college kids to paint in the summer houses. And I got very far by getting 0 people to work for me, and then I had to quit that one. And then Cutco.
You got fired from the cult.
Well, the Cutco one, here's the thing, when you know the MLM is a problem, they make you buy the stuff.
Yeah.
So Cutco,
so you're
you
a
have to
victim
buy
of it before you can.
Yes. So you go to the orientation, all the stuff that Paul and you talked about on the episode. They make you buy the knives. Now, not to defend the cult.
Wow, this is becoming a theme. This is becoming a theme for us.
People always
defend. The knives are a good quality.
We have to vet these guests more.
Okay. They are good quality knives. They have a lifetime warranty. Okay. They will slice a penny, Daisy. Okay. They'll slice a penny. Okay.
I'm sorry. We went from hymns to like now somehow I'm selling
placement.
another MLM product on this podcast.
But this is the punchline
exactly
of the whole Cutco thing. Yeah, well, they get you. They're smart. There's a reason they've been around for 75 years, okay?
Again, another feels like a marketing line. Yeah, a little plug.
It is, yeah.
1-800. No.
So the Cutco thing I sold some of the knives. It was very hard, very tough scene. And then I got out of it. The punchline to this, I'm going to send this to my father. My parents were so angry at me for doing Cutco knives. Like, this is obviously a scam. It was ridiculous. You're bright. You could go do something better than this. What are you doing with the Cutco knives? I'm like, no, I'm an entrepreneur.
You could be crashing the Oscars, and yet you do
I was
Mom
like,
and Dad, you don't get it. I'm
Mom
an
and Dad,
entrepreneur.
you ever heard of Mark Zuckerberg? Okay, because
me,
I'm the
Dad.
next one. Cutco knives. So, but many years later, like maybe a year ago, my dad calls me. He's like, "Yo, we bought thousands of dollars of Cutco knives from our neighbor's kid." And I was like, "Really? You son of a bitch. You bought all these knives after you roasted me for selling them years and years ago. But now you felt the sales pitch worked, didn't it?"
And then he was the one saying, it can cut through a penny.
Yeah, he goes, honestly,
Yeah.
it's pretty good knives, honestly.
It's basically guilt and social pressure that the sales tactics of like it can cut through a shoe. Those just like justify you buying it because you feel guilty.
But it's like Girl Scout cookies in the sense that like
Yeah, that's
like
an
you're doing
MLM
it
in a
'cause you
way.
but that's like on the positive side. You're like it helps the little girls
I would
and
hope
they're
so.
delicious.
Yeah.
This is like I feel bad. This kid's out here like slinging these knives, but you know
it
what?
can cut through a penny.
It can cut through a penny. So like I might as well buy it.
I do need good knives.
They are good knives. I mean that is. But look, there's a reason they all go after college kids and young people because that promise, as Paul said, the promise of the entrepreneurship, of the riches, of all that stuff. I mean, it's pretty wild.
They want a shortcut.
They want a shortcut. We all do.
Everybody wants a shortcut.
But there's no shortcut.
There's no free lunch.
There's no free lunch.
There's
If that's one lesson we can leave you with, is that there's no shortcut to success. Whether you want to get into the parties, you got to earn your way, and you can't break in. You can't go to the front line and just walk in. If you want to be rich, you can't just sell knives. You got to build your own business. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you've got to linger in enough Home Depots to like really get you there.
You know how Paul was like, oh, like the Amway, like they do make, like some people make big money.
Oh yeah,
on that.
That was what I saw.
I don't think anyone was making big money on the kitchen.
They had like zero heavy hitters.
If I got a kitchen people like do it, if I got them to do it, I made like $50. Like this is like in retrospect, I'm like, what was I doing? This is terrible. This is an awful.
It sounds
job.
like you kind of failed at all of the cults.
I have weird jobs, dude. Yeah.
But you could be successful. It sounds like too. Like those are, like in situations that the Amway. I saw the wealth of the.
You saw it, yeah. You saw that it could exist.
And things,
yeah. And they're selling real products.
Those at the top.
But we're not. We don't support.
We're not advocating.
MLMs.
We only support hymns and hers.
And that might be
and
the perfect button.
Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having us. I'm not sure what we accomplished, but I had a lot of fun doing it.
Well, that's the point.
It's a perfect episode.
That is a perfect episode. If
Thank
that's
you
what
for
you got
having
out
me
of
both,
it.
honestly.
Thank you.
Ugh, loved it.